People love self-expression of climbing movement, doing moves by themselves, figuring out cruxes, and having success after they finish a hard climb. Sometimes when I'm belaying a climber up and they need a little bit of an assist, I can pull on their strand up or down and pull in the slack at the same time to create a vector which adds more force on the climber to help them move through harder terrain. It's very subtle, and usually what that looks like is me just pulling really hard on the climber's strand and then pulling slack through the belay device. If they do need a little bit more support, I can introduce a 3-to-1 hauling system. First, I'm going to add security by tying a stopper knot on the brake strand of my belay device. Now I can go hands-free. I'm going to grab a cord and then create a friction hitch. I do like the climb heist for hauling because it's easy to reset after being loaded, and it has pretty consistent grab, so I know it's going to do the job. A consideration here is if I use a locking carabiner or a non-locking carabiner. In this orientation, if I use the non-locking carabiner and I keep the tractor, which is this friction hitch, relatively close to the belay device, I wouldn't introduce a ton of slack if, for example, I pull and the brake strand opens up because it's a non-locking carabiner. If I slide the tractor down the rope, I might want to consider starting to introduce a locking carabiner into this system. The reason why I would do that is because the further away from the belay device I get, the more slack that's being introduced into the brake strand. Once I slide that friction hitch to its intended position, I'm going to try to keep the ropes parallel and then use my legs, right, as force to press up and haul the person through the belay device. I'll do this a couple times until it's no longer efficient for me to pull up, and then reset the system, right, by moving the tractor closer to my climber again.